Chuck will come now. Gita,
We are ready.
yeah, when he comes, yeah, let him come. Yeah, he's coming, no? Because yeah, that's how it's.
Yeah, just
See, this time, Gita, we put. Hmm? Where is Phoebe? Wait, Phoebe? Government, federal government has put the. I think this is all under the website and everyone, the federal government, central government. The only way you can trouble everyone like this. Already knows what is the. My story is. Well, I gave him a but the whole story is. He's the OBG doctor who came up with it. But you want to, but what to actually prove that she's wrong. But anyhow, thank God you didn't get that one person that the minister was. But I'll tell you something. Remember this.
Zoom.
He's a very good friend.
So then they'll be able to see, no?
I thought
No, I'll put something inside.
he said with the
No, no, I'll put
sure, no one is no license.
Get it in a bit. Get it in.
No, it's not.
I saw the Eric.
Come, sir, please.
Shall we put this a little back? I'm afraid for your laptop.
Huh?
Put it to the inside. Yeah? It's a little dip, right?
No, it's okay. It's okay. Nobody will understand it, no?
He was the father student, and then he was using when we started our program. Yes, I told her to come. She's ready.
be here in bioethics. Enjoy. Thank you.
I'm Padmavati. I'm a psychiatrist, and I am currently the director of the Schizophrenia Research Foundation. But I'm here in the capacity of a learner, and hopefully I'll go back this evening little more enthused because of the personal contact. Very happy to be here.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, I'm Dr. Joseph Philiprat, Professor and Head of the Department of Urology at Mahatma Gandhi Medical College and Research Institute, Pondicherry. And I'm sure most of them would have heard me, seen me, and cursed me also. But it's a new venture, thanks to Dr. Russell and Dr. Derek and the rest of the faculty for having given me this opportunity to come and learn some new things. There is no age limit for learning. That's what I believe. So I still feel learning. Thank you, sir, Dr. Russell. Special thanks to you. Only thing you haven't got my blazer.
It's on the way. Yes, Dr. Sukumar, right.
Good morning. I am Dr. Sukumar, Professor of Medicine, Professor HOD, Department of General Medicine, Muthukur Medical College, Chennai. So a member in the medical education committee and also scientific committee member, and previously I was in the ethics committee also. So this is the third quality assurance program. I don't want to miss it. That's a really wonderful thing. So keep going. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Supala Vishwasrao. Basically, I'm an anesthesiologist, and presently I'm working as a principal in Karpova Institute of Medical Sciences. I thank Professor Russell sir for giving us this opportunity, and definitely we will be gaining by evening all the discussions from here. And I thank once again for this opportunity. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Vivek. I'm teaching an gynecologist and medical consultant. I'm very happy, glad to be here today and thank Professor Russell and the entire team for giving this opportunity. Last 2 years have been wonderful during the COVID time. We've been seeing each other every week and discussing and keeping our minds so occupied. That's a great time. I enjoyed it, and also the opportunity given me for writing the head club and the new textbook of medical ethics, bioethics, and health law is coming out. So all that has been a wonderful experience for me, and I thank him for this great honor. And I wish we all have a wonderful day today. Go back much more better person.
Thank you, Dr. Vivek.
Morning. Good morning, I'm Dr. Srinivas. I'm the professor and HOD of neurology at the Jubilee Mission Medical College at Thrissur. Thrissur is a very small place, but I think we are kind of big on bioethics thanks to this association with Professor Russell and Dr. Mary and Dr. Eric and the whole team really. It's been a wonderful journey, and I just hope it keeps continuing. As Dr. Russell says, we just have so many years in the bag. Let's give it all away, do something good. Thank you all.
Can we have a big round of applause for our chief guest? Sir, and thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of this entire faculty. Not only do we thank you for all the support and giving us a wonderful hospitality, wonderful arrangements here. I think we can give sir a louder round of applause because we always make so comfortable. And may I now request Dr. Russell D'Souza and Professor Mary Matthew to felicitate. No, we'll go ahead with that, sir. I request Dr. Russell and Professor Mary Matthew on behalf of the Department of Education, International Chair in Bioethics, IFA, and now with Porto in Portugal, to welcome our chief guest. Engineer Sri Shakti Kumar, please. Welcome. On YouTube as well to USA, Canada, and all of them join in thanking you and a warm welcome once again. So we'll carry on with our introductions. I know our chief guest has a busy day still. He's very kindly consented to be here with us. And I now request him to inaugurate this quality assurance workshop and share his thoughts and ideas with us. So we'll carry on with our introductions. I know our chief guest has a busy day still. He's
Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay. I had a family emergency, so actually, I hope everyone understands because I had to go to a hospital, so some people understand. And I'm very happy to host this kind of an event in Chennai. I'm having the privilege actually to host this event because there are lots of stalwarts in this field, and but they have given me the opportunity, and the names are humongous. Like when you read the names, who and whatever are attending this kind of inauguration, and it is very big for us and for Panimala to do this kind of stuff. And I thank Dr. Russell for giving us this opportunity. Thank you all for accepting for Panimala to host this kind of an event, and it's happening in Chennai post lockdown. Medicine, it's been always been there, but people say after COVID, people are preferring any type of medicine that is like not doctors, even in health science department or nursing or a physiotherapist or even pharmacy. So that they say medical is being booming in and around the world. It's not only in India or somewhere, it's in and around the world. But the thing is like post-COVID, one thing which has taught us is like coming back to humanity, giving something for the humanity, doing something for the people, and each one would have lost somebody in their family due to COVID, and that gives them the drive to be in the field of medicine, so that we could have saved our dear loved ones. So it is an opportunity for them to save somebody else. So that drive, it can be for some time, but what drives them more is the ethical values, which should be inculcated in them. So as I was saying, in those days when we were in schools, we had a specific period moral science class we used to have, where I used to help how we are taught moral values, how to help people and all that stuff. But this is missing nowadays. Even my son doesn't have a class like that. So I'm a moral science teacher. I sit back and I teach him all that stuff, and I try to be true to what I teach to him. So that also drives me to be what I teach him. So this is what we are trying to do to our children, like our students which are studying in our respective institutions. So this is the motto of this. Starting this bioethics classes everywhere, each and everywhere, and you people are aware of how the values have traveled from yesteryears to now, where there is just one MD, general medicine doctor, where everyone goes for from head to toe. Doctor have an issue, and that general medicine doctor prescribes for everything. But now every specialty, super specialty have branched out, but we don't know what is going on, how it is going on. So it is like people believe the doctor only. So it is doctor's duty to do all that stuff. So we join hands together, and we are creating that kind of a doctor who helps them, even if he's a super specialist or a specialist, to know actually be kind to the patients, because we don't know how the children have been brought up. So we are trying to bring back the values which we have. We are trying to transfer that. The knowledge can be gained everywhere, but the values can be just inculcated. It should be instilled in them. Knowledge can be acquired, but this should be inculcated. And this is what Dr. Russell and his team have come forward actually to help us bring back the values, which was more of like an world value, but in India we were respecting this human nature of it. And I'm happy that it's one of the meetings itself is happening in Chennai, and we got this opportunity, and I thank each and every one of you coming here and acknowledging us and also trying to bring up this kind of value more and more. So the more the intellectuals in the board, the value of the course goes up, and people will start seeing it as an important thing. It is not just for the namesake that we have so many hours of teaching. It is about the values you take back. Like doctor doesn't retire, so until he's 80, 90, he's still a doctor, and he sees the people and he sees patients, and he's being kind to them. A retired cardiologist still prescribes medicine. He still talks to the patients and he soothes them. So this bioethics will help them. This era of students who are missing all the stuff. So I hope it brings back our culture, and it helps more and more people around in India or around the world. And, I wish all the best to the people who are participating in it, and thank you all once again for being a part of this and allowing us to host this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for those kind words. And ladies and gentlemen, I must inform you that sir just doesn't say something, but rather he actually walks the talk. Now, why do I say that? Panimalar Medical and Nursing Institution has the honor of hosting or having the first foundation course in bioethics, personality development, all of that put together under the collaboration with Dr. Russell and the entire team at Panimalar. So 2 years now, first year, medical, nursing, and they moved into second year. So all over the world, this is the first foundation course. And I think this is a really notable achievement. And we have almost 90 to 95% attendance regularly. Because of certain issues, I'll not claim 100%, but as close to that as you can get. And again, you can see the transformation that the first year medical students, I think within 3 or 4 months, they presented on solidarity and they won an international prize during COVID times. And many of us didn't have a clue of what solidarity means. So I think we can give a round of applause to both Shakti Kumar sir and Dr. Russell D'Souza and Professor Mary Matthew for putting together this wonderful program. And let's clap for each other as well, because I know all of you have been here as faculty. And you all have taken the classes, you all have attended, you've been in support. So thank you very much, sir. And all of us have been comfortable. Again, a round of applause for Dr. Krishna Mohan. He sits quietly, but he does a phenomenal job. And everything that you see together is thanks to both of them together. So without further ado, I now invite Dr. Russell D'Souza to once again welcome all of you and tell us about the reason for putting together this workshop.
Post-function, I think we'll be hosting, we'll have the privilege of hosting all in our institution, which is just nearby. And I would request every one of you all to join for the post-function. We have a dinner there as well, and we'll have small snacks as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So kind of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Dr. Shakti Kumar, thank you so much for attending and also spending time with me yesterday. I've never met Dr. Shakti before, whereas all of you we know. So I have to understand. And I just realized that his grandfather, I knew his grandfather, how things happen in life. And I only knew after I was talking to him. I went many years, about 40 years ago. So I had the opportunity of being going to meet him. Anyhow, welcome to all of you. It's a great happiness to meet you all after nearly 3 years that we all been seeing each other on the what do you call it, Zoom. So we said you want me to turn, yeah. I can understand what Percy it feels odd facing you. But indeed, to all our colleagues who are there, Dr. Gerard Fortwinkle and others who will also joining us. We have Abe and Praveen and many others. Yeah, sorry. And Dr. Pradeep, the Vice Chancellor of Devra Jutes, he's also there. Yes, sir. Well, I welcome to you, Dr. Pradeep. And we have also Geeta Lakshmi, another Vice Chancellor who's been with this program from the time she took over as the Vice Chancellor of Engineering University. And I'm very glad we have Thangaraj, Dr. Thangaraj, who was the Pro Vice Chancellor of SRM University, who established the Nodal Center in 2014 with the Honorable Chancellor, Dr. Pachamuthu at that time, and hosted one of the Paris-based UNESCO training for the whole of India at their center. So I want to welcome all of you, and very importantly, this is an opportunity for all of us to come back together. But I think before we go into the qualifications, I wanted, we heard Derek and Dr. Shakti Kumar talking about the foundation course, and you all, many of you are part of taking the course, taking the students. Why this is important? In March 2021, it was launched by the president of the World Federation of Medical Education. Not only him, Dr. David Gordon, but we also, it was so powerful, it was Ronald Harden, the very famous Professor Ronald Harden, who is the founder of the Association of Medical Education of Europe, also was present, and he contributed to one part of this program. And we also had Professor Bill Pilsky, who is the president, who is the chair of the FAMA and the ECFMD from Philadelphia, USA. So we had Europe, USA, and the World Federation to launch this program. Why was it important? Because we talked about values. This is not just ethics. It is about moral values. Ethics, a very important concept was professionalism, and the bringing of what is now considered important, professional identity formation. And the fourth important role was Ron Harden's contribution, where he said medical education trains to become doctors. And one of the important things we are seeing that they are the most vulnerable to depression and suicide. And they know they've never been trained in that. And post-COVID, we know of the impact on moral injury, on compassion fatigue, on demoralization and embitterment. All these have impacted. So we took this, and for the first time, and because that was their first batch, they never had medical before that. So we wanted to be without any past. So it's a sort of pure group we took out, and all of them were present for the inauguration. And the idea was soon after your college, or they come from school, we want to give these values, and it goes early for both semesters and we go for the whole 5 years. And that's not all. We have Professor Gerard Fortwinkle heading an evaluation team, because we are, and then we're going to give it to the others. But at the moment, we had the first evaluation. They were all the students took part in the evaluation to look at what did we and also to track the internalization. And we'll talk more about it when we talk about the assessment of competencies. So one of the things we're doing is looking at tracking internalization of values. So hopefully that the next generation of healthcare providers, and maybe all of you from your colleges will bring after we want it to be evidence-based. Everything is now what we are following is evidence-based. And so this is another important area. So with for this important initiative, I want to thank Dr. Shakti Kumar, and I never knew him, I never met him, and Dr. Krishna Mohan has been talking to me. I never ever met him before, but he came up and he supported medical education, and so I'm very grateful that we got this opportunity, and we're going to then, this is going to be opened to the other once we give you the evidence of it being a transformation. We want to see that happening. So, and they will also get a diploma, the medical students. So they're working, they take an exam at the of the semester, which is prepared by Fort Winkel and from Germany. So this is the type of thing we're doing, and I hope all of you, I know many of you are contributing, have taken these classes, but in the end of the day, all this is to make the world a better place, to make our this country, and which has a great history, to come out with practitioners and so forth who are not doing just scientific excellence, but value-based, ethical scientific excellence. That's, otherwise it's not noble. And for that reason, I want to thank Dr. Shakti Kumar and Dr. Krishna Mohan, who sits every week 4 hours. He sits along and has been doing this. So we have 500 students taking part at the moment. Every week we have 4 classes, which is going on, and that's a very good start. I think at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. So it's not just ethics; it's professionalism, ethics. So they talk about communication. They talk about all these areas, which I think once we have the evidence, we will give it and try to give all of you to take this further. The other important good thing also is that for the first time in the history, we have been able to have AMI. I don't know if all of you are aware of AMI, which is the Association of Medical Education of Europe, which is the largest medical education authority in the world. Because of the and they are involved in China, they are involved in Russia, they are even in the Middle East, but they have never come to India, right? And India has the largest medical education program. So with all this, having said that, they opened this program, Ron Harden was there, we have been able to come to another area. For the first time, we are going to be inaugurating 4 AMI nodal centers in India in medical education, which will be on the 9th, a national program with 4 centers in the country. And of course, because they were involved also in running this course, in Parimala is also one of the AMI centers that are going to be on the 9th. I think Dr. Geeta Lakshmi is going to come. Ben Prakash is hosting, and so we have 4 in Ludhiana, CMC Ludhiana, we have Data Mengen, we have Manipal Parimala. So I want to congratulate all of you for thank you very much. Now, we're coming back to what we've come here today. Most of you here are, or at least 90% of you are trainers. The other 10% are potentially because you've already done all the requirements for training, and I welcome all of you. Now, very importantly, we have always followed an evidence-based pattern of what we're doing. And we have had 3, and I have to again congratulate and thank Dr. Geeta Lakshmi, who, when she was the Vice Chancellor of FDR University, she brought in 2 of those training, one in Bangalore, when we had one program, and the next one she hosted it at in Chennai at the with Tamil Nadu FDR, but at La Meriti. And this set the pace. So we don't just teach, but we have got a quality assurance program, and takes into how to teach, but how all of us as trainers, how best we can maintain that training. Now, importantly, for all of you, who might not be aware, and I think Tara is aware because Dr. Tara is from Howler. They have also joined. We had a program, and she's one of the faculty for the foundation course, along with other faculty members from around the world. So this foundation course is taken by faculty from USA, Canada, Australia, Germany, Israel. So it's a beautiful way that the first year doctor or medical or nursing student gets acquainted with not just this but global feels part of the globalization and then solidarity and all the other things. But I wanted to tell you that this treaty, which was started, and we ran this for some time, many of you have taken part in it. It has been evaluated, it has been evolving, and it's also evidence-based for all those interventions or the different techniques that are used. So in 2020, at the AMI, this was one of the invited symposium only on this that was run with Adina, Daniela, it was in 2020. In 21 again, they were invited to run this symposium on the treaty or this methodology. And it has now gone to and that's what I wanted to tell all of you, because you need to be very proud that you are part of this. This program had gone through 3 evaluators. As you all know, to run a workshop with AB is very hard. They have for 5,000 from around the world coming there. And our program has been taken for running this workshop in France, in Lyon, on the 29th of August. And I think all of you should be very proud that you're all fully aware, qualified, trained, and this is now taken to the world. So this is they have put it out as the only evidence-based faculty development program for teachers of bioethics in medical and health professional education. So that's important, right? The next important thing is there is a program called the Ottawa, which happens once in 2 years. And in that, the world leaders in medical education focusing on evaluating competencies in medical students and health professional students meet. And there again, on the 28th, I think, we've been invited to run the workshop, which is part of this, but teased out separately into a workshop on assessing competencies in medical bioethics and medical education and health professional education. Now, that is again another achievement, and that formed the basis for our theme for this year. So the theme, as you know, when we did it with Dr. Gita Lakshmi, and earlier it was how to teach, and we're now talking about how to assess competencies, right? And it is a complex area because it's a little different from general doing your assessment of in the pure medical education area. So that was the theme for this time, giving you all this opportunity. And I think we will, I wanted you to know why this was picked. And so this is going to be another workshop being held at the Ottawa Congress, which starts on the 26th, again in France, in Europe. And this happened because it's the European program. So in a way, we started sometime ago, and we have now 4,000 faculty have been trained around this country, around from Kashmir, Amritsar to Kanyakumari. From this side, we had Jodhpur and we had Shillong. We were in Shillong, and Dr. Gita Lakshmi had come for all this to all these places, and also from Calcutta to Gujarat, Ahmedabad. So, and of course, all of the central Maharashtra has been one of the backbones where we've been, where we started much of our work and still continues to be major focus in our program. So with this, with all this there, I want to welcome all of you, and we have a very interesting program. And you will see, the idea is that we've got teams. They're going to present, and the rest of us will be divided. Principal will come in, and Dr. Mary will say a few words on what we expect. You're going to, peers are going to evaluate your talk, both from the from the strengths and the alternate, and then we will all come together and come out with each of the mentors here will come out, and we will join with you, and we'll all agree that what is the take-home message, and this will be, I think, one of the highlights that I don't know how many of you have had this type of peer review of your teaching training, but this is what we're doing. So that's the issue today, and I want to thank all of you once again. I want to welcome also Dr. Annie Grace, as you know, Dr. Annie Grace. She's the all of you might know, she's the secretary, I think, registrar but to me she's important because she heads the nursing bioethics for the country for our program and has done great job. We have a nursing. She has been taking our faculty for the nursing. She's the co-chair of the nursing program, in the foundation course. She and Dr. Professor Kristen Jones from Canada, they take for leading the nursing. Thank you very much for coming along. And again, this was also started at the time when the MGR University, Gita was there, when we brought in pharmacology, we brought in physiotherapy, we brought in nursing, and we had a very big nursing program. Dental also, yes, but particularly thinking of how we ran the nursing in 4 or 5 colleges in 2 centers. We had a large 200 nurses came. So that was all very good. So thank you all for giving me the opportunity, more importantly, to meet all of you face to face. And we, in 2020 and 21, I was not sure whether we'll ever meet again. Particularly during the Delta, when things were so bad. And I left here from Jailal. This Dr. Jailal is another stalwart who took the ethics in the IMA. And the last time I left from his wonderful meeting that he organized in Kanyakumari with all the stalwarts, Professor Mary, Vivek, all of us came, and they rushed back, and I rushed back to Australia, and then the doors were closed. Just a few days after I reached Australia, Australia closed its borders, everyone closed. And that's the time Girish reminded me that we came in at the same time, the flight that brought the first case to Kerala. Lakeshore. We were running a program in Lakeshore, all of them were there. And I left them in Lakeshore, and we rushed to Trivandrum to his program. And then they came back to continue. And then, of course, he told us we came on the same, we walked in at the same time. Qatar Airways brought the first COVID, first death. So it was such a, so we see this is how all the things that happened. And I'm now here. After that, this is the first time I've come. So we want to thank all of you, above all, thank God that all of us, that we are all here to meet. And I want to thank Shakti for supporting this, and Dr. Shakti Kumar and Krishna Mohan for agreeing and wanting to support this post-qualifications program. So thank you very much. I know it took a few more minutes, but I thought it's important that we reflect and understand why we are all here. We have a very interesting program. So Derek, I'll hand this back. I think
Thank you, Dr. Russell, and that was a trip down memory lane for all of us, as Dr. Srinivas also remembers. And really, it's grace of God that we traveled twice through Trivandrum on literally alternate nights, and we were safe. Anything could have happened, you realized there. Like I said, we're very honored to have the double Vice Chancellor, because she was former Vice Chancellor of Tamil Nadu, Dr. MGR University, and presently she is Vice Chancellor of again Dr. MGR University Medical and Research Institute. And ma'am has been significantly important to our program, because at the university, and you all know this is one of the largest medical and healthcare universities in the country, throughout the university, she introduced the first bioethics curriculum across the board, which was validated, and we still use that as the backdrop. Not only that, throughout Tamil Nadu, she organized numerous programs at various medical institutes, and the first two quality assurance that we had. So we just like to quickly hear from you, ma'am, about your association with us.
Incidentally, that's another reason why here, because she heads, we have Mary is the head of the whole program as leader. Leader actually heads the faculty development program. That's the reason she came from Amritsar all around that time. And the other is Dr. Prakash, who was here, but he's been called up and but he heads the executive program for, and it's good because of this, and he will tell all of you that many of you heard. He only knew it as AdCom, and only after taxes for 80 years, that is.
After deliberation with you.
Yes, but in the end, it's good for everyone.
A very good morning to all my dear friends here. Being as a Vice Chancellor in the esteemed Dr. MGR Medical University, and now as a Vice Chancellor in Dr. MGR Education Research Institute, Madurai. It's a pleasure to be with you all. And of course, I've been, to tell you, I'm happy to see too many new faces today. That I should appreciate Russell and Mary and Derek, like making them to come along with you. It's really a big task, and making our doctors to understand what it is really a wonderful thing which you all three of you made. Today, which there is a lot of lead now and opportunities for many of the medical colleges to come along with us to have these training program, as said by Mr. Shakti Kumar, like the values, moral values which were taught, because those days I was in an Anglo-Indian school where catechism was one part and moral science was another part. So moral science they used to teach, but nowadays there is no moral science teacher at all. So, and also, so now these ethics has to be taught by the student, to the students by our faculty, and how to teach them. It is the quality assurance teachers who are here, who have been trained and are going to be trained, will percolate these ideas and whatever knowledge to the children, and see that it is being actively participated by the student, and assessing them is today's theme, and how to assess whether we are lagging behind or how to go about still further would be today's program. And I think so. My association with Dr. Russell was in the university, like he had an email to me, and that is the story it started. And I knew that ethics has to be gone into us, each one of us, and then only we can teach others. So in that way, I wanted our medical students and the other health people who are along with them to go along and make this happen. So the first program started in Dr. MGR Medical University as a unit, and then went into all the medical colleges with Mary, Matthew, and Derek. And now then later on joined by Princey, Palati, and other people who are here. And definitely this would go again further with a lot of network throughout India and throughout the world. And each one of you will take it up and see that our children, the future citizens of India, have practice ethically their medical practice. That is what we want in future. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, ma'am, for your continued contribution through all these years. And before we move ahead, I know Dr. Shakti Kumar has to rush home. We already heard. So best wishes, and we hope everything is fine. So as Sir leaves, may I request Dr. Russell D'Souza to kindly present Sir with a certificate of having organized and attended this workshop of us. Can we ask Dr. Mary Matthew also to join for the photograph, please? Can we have a round of applause for making us so comfortable and for giving us this opportunity? Dr. C. Shakti Kumar. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you once again. So we'll move ahead, jumping right into what the reason that we are here for. And I now request Professor Mary Matthew and Professor Princey to lay down the schedule or tell us exactly what we are expected to do. And of course, it was wonderful to see the energy in the room as people came in. I really felt there was an exam about to be held, or, like before you go in for your joint entrance or NEET nowadays, everybody came in with their notes and quickly found their group. So that was the energy that we wanted. So thank you for that, Professor Mary Matthew.
So thank you very much, Derek, and good morning to all of you. It's really lovely to see all of you back again, like all our speakers before I said, to see you all in person. And we are very happy today because when we started this quality assurance program, Madam knows, Madam Geeta Lakshmi knows, we started it, Dr. Russell and I discussed it, but we didn't know actually where it would go. We never thought we'll see the third edition of the quality assurance program. And it's really nice that, we are seeing new faces, new people being, new faculty coming in for the quality assurance program. And let me tell you, I've also been learning through this whole process, just like how you've all studied and brought your notes and you all prepared. Even I, was sitting and reading about assessment. And one thing that I was discussing with Dr. Russell this morning is, by the way, welcome to all the our online guests and participants also. So we are live on YouTube, so you can also send the link on to anyone if they want to watch, also to April if you want. They can see it in Iraq, Kurdish, the region of Iraq. So one thing I wanted to say is, even though we are talking about quality assurance and assessment of bioethics, as teachers of bioethics, one thing that is very important that we should keep in mind is self-assessment. Even before we go to teach bioethics, it's important that we have, that we assess ourselves. So, of course, this we will take up at a later, program where we will give you a self-assessment tool. It's called, a bias assessment, tool, where you will assess yourself as ethics teacher. And that is very important because whatever you teach, as a teacher, there should be no bias. Okay, that is one. And the second thing is that we should be also competent. We say we're teachers of ethics, but we also should be competent, and we should continue to learn. That is, because science is evolving, it's continuing. We also go with the time. So we have to continue to learn and keep examining ourselves with all the issues that we, put out to the students while teaching, there's one thing you should remember. Any tool that we give to the students, you should think, will this tool cause any physical or psychological harm? We may give any sort of role play, we may give sort of to write paragraph on something, but is it going to harm anyone psychologically or physiologically, physical harm? Because it should be safe for the students also. It shouldn't, especially when we were talking this morning about religion coming into, when you teach ethics. We live in a multicultural society. We need to look into, what is the cultural norms, and we cannot disrespect a cultural norm of that particular. We may come from different states of India, but we can't disrespect, anyone's culture, anyone's belief. So that is what is also important. So first thing, as teachers, we need to have a self-assessment, and whatever assessment tool we use, make sure that causes no harm to the students. Okay, so that is what I wanted to tell you. And this is what I asked in the morning, but nobody could find it. So now it's coming. Okay, thank you very much. This is most helpful. So also we should see that it meets the ethical standards. Okay, so when we design our tools, it's not just for whims and fancies or according to what we feel is right. It should also be in a line with the ethical standards. And then, after we use this tool, whatever, we should get the proper feedback, because we need to know whether it works or not. There's no point in giving whatever tool you're using for assessment, there's no point unless you get a feedback and see that it works. So that is also very, very important. And then understanding your own biases. Okay, we are all biased in some sort of self-bias we have. I'll give you an example. Suppose my belief says that, no abortion. Certain religions don't, approve of abortion. But that doesn't mean you carry your bias into your teaching. So it's important that you understand yourself first before you teach your students. So that is also very important. And another thing is, I just want to talk. There are actually a lot of things, and when you start opening about, reading about assessment, you'll see that it just stumbles on to one after the, I'm sure all of you would have experienced it when you were doing your homework. Where do I start and where do I put a full stop when it comes to assessment? But any assessment, it should always be valid. It should be reliable. It should be equitable. It should be explicit and transparent. It should support the student learning process. Remember that. It should support the student learning process and should be efficient. So these are the things you keep in mind when you're designing your tool for assessment. Right? So I think Dr. Russell at a later date will do the self-bias scores. This time, of course, I think there was too much of activity, too much of homework for all of you. In our next version 4.0 of assessment, quality assessment, we will do something on self-bias and self-assessment. Right? So with that, I'd like to call Dr. Princey. She is the lady when it comes to medical education, ethics, you name it. She doesn't need a laptop. She doesn't need anything. She can stand here and speak the whole session without a problem. And we're really privileged because Princey and I were first friends before Dr. Russell came into the picture. Okay, so I was introduced to Dr. Russell through Dr. Princey when she invited me for a talk, and that's how the journey started. So she is the lady who actually she did a lot of work in Father Muller's Medical College, designing the logbook for medical student, and she ran the whole program 5 years. She from first year onwards, the fifth and last year of the student she ran the entire program, even before NMC brought in ethics. Yeah, and the students were also evaluated. So nobody knows about her, but you know that when she talks, everything makes sense. And she put it in a very nice way that you can relate to. So we're really happy that Princey's part. She is actually the first person in the group to know Dr. Russell, and then me and Derek followed. So she will lead today's session, and she'll take you forward, and we'll see how well we can, finalize everything. What is the outcome? All right. So thank you. I will hand it to Madam Annie Grace. Just to acknowledge you also that Madam has been doing a lot of good work when it comes to nursing and bioethics, and it's really a privilege teaching them. We have taken sessions for your students, and privileged to know that they also are benefiting from it. So thank you very much for coming.
So friends, can I ask you to sit comfortably? Sit comfortably.
So now you're going to get uncomfortable.
That was a surprise. Okay, you're comfortable. Okay. Now I would like you all to go away from your comfort zone and sit with your right arm over, fold your right arm over your left arm and sit straight back. Yes. For the next 5 minutes, you have to do this. Right arm over the left arm. Up. Yes. Up, ma'am. What does it feel? At the end of 5 minutes, I should be asking you, but for the interest of time, how do you feel? When you're asked to do something, what do you feel? Uncomfortable? Oppressed, compressed, okay. Constricted, yeah, that you brought out. Yes, Tara? Restricted, constricted. Any more? Pay more attentive. Okay, you're on the guard. You're on a vigilant, right? Okay, that's another point. That's a positive point amongst the most of the negative points that we got about it. Okay, you can rest free from this. What does this show? What we did now, what am I trying to show? You're a trainers. I'm not talking to first standard children, right? You're a trainers. Tell me. Authority.
When you impose something on someone.
When you impose something on someone. Anyone? Control, okay. You're under control. Or you're being watchful. So when you're being told, you're subject to a control. Yes. Enforcing discipline. Okay. You're being innovative. Okay. Or innovative, push down on you. Okay. Projecting you as a powerful person. Okay. Very good. I like all of these, and I would like to draw into these. But one thing what we are trying to show is we are talking about values, feelings, attitudes, perceptions. So in this analogy, when you were sitting the way you wanted comfortably, now if you see Dr. Gilwas and sorry, both of them, they like to keep their arms folded. I mean, I am not that kind. Most of us are not keeping our arms folded in a comfortable, natural way. This is your natural way. So maybe I gave in to sir, but mine was put your right arm over your left. So that is discomfort for him again. So you understand the point we went into was looking at cognitive discordance that emanates when you are asked to do or change. And you and I are teaching bioethics. We are telling them about ethics. You're incorporating a, a new belief, a new value
what do you expect? You may be sitting, they may be sitting, they may be listening. They will put their right arm over the left arm and sit there. But are they at ease? Are they feeling confident? Are they comfortable? Many people, if you see, when you conduct a 3D, what happens to the majority? We do find transformation, but sometimes it is a forceful transformation. Okay, there is a little misgiving inside. So at the first sight of a deviation, they will jump off. Correct. So we have to talk about one aspect that we see is cognitive discordance. You can read up more, and it is up the field of psychiatry, psychology, understanding. Sir Dr. Russell, Madam Padmavati can tell a lot more about it. I'm not here to tell that. My job is to just sensitize you on this aspect of cognitive discordance. Another aspect, when we are talking, okay, there's this nice terminology that says creativity is thinking new things. Innovation is doing new things. Okay, so we are improving this quality assurance program. It was designed, improve ourselves as the time goes on. And Dr. Russell, maybe, Derek, don't you think over the years we have been, from first standard level, we are rising and rising? Yeah, quite a bit we have risen when we started learning the process and, the smoothness of getting to it. And now we are talking at a higher level. The realm is, widening. So that is also the reason why they say when you want to discover the limits of what is possible, you have to go beyond into the areas of impossible. So that's what we are trying to do here today. I know it's achievable, but be with it. And whenever we do branding, now our job is bioethics, right? So we are giving it out to our students. We are branding. It's like marketing without advertising. I'm talking, my son is doing MBA, so I have got these little mantras. Okay, so, but it does come in. And whenever you want something new, take yourself, for example, and even there are clinical studies given. When you want to do something new, everyone wants to do new, but nobody does new, which is absolutely new without a little bit of familiarity, a connect. If you see, even in marketing products. In fact, there was this study, just to quote, 170 new research protocols, absolutely new, were given to some 200 reviewers. And they were asked to choose the best one. Okay, and they all chose not something that was absolutely new, but something that had a good blend of new with a little familiarity. So again, that's what we are trying to do in bioethics, how we indigenously bring out ethics to the students when we train, without losing the culture. In fact, Mary told, some aspects of indoctrination by the trainer, teacher can happen, which is beyond redemption. It is wrong to do so. Okay, it should not happen. Indoctrination should not happen when we teach bioethics. That's one part of the bias. Our bias, we don't bring into the teaching of bioethics. But here what I'm saying is how to bring in innovation. So in innovation, we are looking at innovative methods of teaching. And today, as you focus this innovative and newer, and you're bringing out all the assessment tools. So today, you all will, each of the groups will have been given sheets. You have already been given, yes. And your names are also written there. So in the first line, you will devise the assessment strategy. Each group has been given a topic area. One of them is about cognitive domain, attitudinal domain, formative assessment tools, summative assessment tools. So you write out the strategies here. This is just a path. This is is just a roadmap path for you. So you have this strategies in this corner. Next, you see strengths. Then you write the weakness of that strategy, the opportunities, and how it is time bound, how you can make it happen. And after going through all of these, then you can come down to a final consensus that we shall be taking at the end. So shall we go into the process, into your groups?
So any clarifications?
Yeah, we are open to any clarifications, doubts.
One sheet per group.
Yeah, one sheet per group.
So what you need to do is put your assessment, whatever you have planned for your group, right? So that,
Yeah, each strategy they can write or tool.
So you can, whatever strategy you've planned, which you have all discussed in your group, put it in your strategy and then put the strength of that strategy, weakness, opportunity, and the time. Okay. So try it. I know Dr. Vivek is looking a little confused. Try it. And then it will listen.
It's one sheet per group.
So if you have something like a role play, yeah. So you put the strengths, the weakness, everything, so that you know exactly what is the tool that Any doubts? Any other groups have any doubts?
Are we talking about the teaching methodology or the tool?
No, we are talking here. You're talking about this assessment tool. Same. So you have to concentrate only. And that is the strategy.
So whichever tool you're using for your domain, whichever domain you've been given, write multiple tools. If you have more strategies, you can put. Many strategies are there.
Yeah.
We have blank pages, so you can write the headings wherever.
Try it out, you'll understand, because this is the way you need to analyze what tool you're giving for assessment to your students. You have to know the strengths, so you can join them. You can join one of the groups. Yes, you can join them.
Hey, Zoom is here. So Vivus is not a. Vivus 2, 3. Take it. That's okay. That's a few only. In the interest of time, we are not taking a formal tea break as we had on the program. So in case somebody wants to take a bio break in between, please feel free to do that. And you can join back to your group discussion. We'll be serving you tea and some snacks here itself. And as soon as group 1 is ready, then we will start with the formal presentation. And 15 minutes, please request each one to be on time so that we can finish on time. Yeah, as it is running a little bit late and we don't want to hold you on back. So please stick to time, and as soon as your discussions are over, group 1 can start. So, yeah. So in case any of you prefers tea or coffee, it's just outside this hall, but just pick it up and come back inside, please, because I think group 1 is also almost done. You can start with your presentation. Simultaneously, the task that Dr. Princey has requested you to do will just have to be submitted to us. And during your presentation or after once the presentation is over, maybe somebody else from the group can come and just tell us regarding the strategies that you have formulated. Give us a short overview of what you've written so that we can share it with the group during the discussion. No, after the presentation, then you can just discuss how you your overview of the strategy. So group one, if you all are ready, you can come check out your presentation and start. Okay, since we are ready to start, can I have all your attention, please? While each group is presenting, please note that we are going to have a right half, that is my right and my left. Okay, so the ones to my left will get together. Dr. Girish style will make them stand, sir, and they'll quickly form a group and they will evaluate in just 5 to 7 minutes what were the highlights of the presentation of the group that just finished. Okay, so the ones on my left will just get together there near the. So while you are listening, remember Dr. Purvishnu will be this side, my right, and the others will be to the left. So you will quickly stand, make a list of the highlights of the presentation, what was good, what really stood out. If there's some modification, yes. And the ones to my right will tell us about any alternate strategies that could be there or areas that need clarification or improvement. So this is going to be the quality control part of it. Okay, am I clear? So the ones to my right will tell us what could be improved or any additional strategies that you all are aware of or where improvement could be made. And the ones on the right are going to highlight what was good, what could be appreciated, and what was outstanding in their presentation. Yes.
This is very, very important because this is what is called as a peer review.
Each and every one of you, you're doing it. Please take it.
So you can take your notepads that are given to you and start noting it. Once again, the ones to my left are the highlights. So it's like assessment of each other, peer assessment. And the ones this side, where improvement could be made. All right, okay. If group one is ready, who is going to do the presentation? Both, okay, come, please. At the end of the session. Yes, once, because we'll have a peer assessment and review, and then at the end, if there is any. No, you can be here. You'll be able to see it there. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Yes. 15 minutes starts now.
Okay, so hello again. Our group will start with assessing attitudes or affective domain. This is one part of the competencies in bioethics that we are talking about today. It's multitasking I'm learning here, so this is not from yeah, so let's just go to a basic review. I think we are safe to just visit those standards that I'm sure most of us know about attitude or the affective domain. So what is an attitude actually? It's a mix of these three. I mean, there is one left here, the cognitive part or the opinion segment of an attitude that we all have to know. And then there is the affective or the emotional segment of an attitude. And then you have the part that is the behavioral or the belief on how to behave segment of an attitude. These three components make an attitude. Okay, and there I say that most of us, maybe I could claim that we have a problem with the cognitive segment of attitude, how much we know, what is the belief that we have in an attitude. This part is usually difficult to start with. So these three components make attitudes, and of course, many of you know the Miller's pyramid. Miller's pyramid is the basic hierarchy for competencies. When you add these three domains, the attitudes, skills, and knowledge, these make a 3D shape. And this what adds to the assessment of competencies. This makes it easier to use to assess competencies. When we're talking, of course, in bioethics, so we have to restrict ourselves to the subject of bioethics when it comes to attitudes. And the process of internalization that was just mentioned by Professor Russell at the beginning, it actually starts with these levels, coming from the base, the receiving, and when it comes to our students or our participants, attendance is considered the first level, attending whatever events we have, and then of course responding or starting to actually forming some values, and then the values are interacting with each other into what can become an organization of a system of values. and how to visit those values up until the characterization by value set, in which there is a transformation, there's a lifestyle actually being the result of those values internalized. So the process of internalization is going through all these levels. So when we talk about assessment, I was only talking about attitude and its domain. Now, if we talk about assessment, we all know that we have to think of two parts of assessment, the formative and the summative. So I think we can safely say everywhere around the world, formative part is being emphasized on, that it can occur throughout the learning experience. And the primary purpose of formative evaluation is to catch deficiencies, because we are in the process giving feedback to our participants. So it is really very important in the assessment of attitudes. Summative evaluation, on the other hand, can occur only at the end of the experience, and the primary purpose, as we all know, is to just give a measurement of the level of success or proficiency for learners in the attitude competency. So in each one of them, we have a set of tools, and those tools can be used according to the measured outcome. So we have a set of tools, but before that, we have to establish the baseline where we want to start in the process of internalization, where you are with your students, at which level in the process, and then we pick the most appropriate evaluation tool. Again, remember the Miller's pyramid, where you have the 3D components added to them. And then we have to make sure that our tools are context specific, learner stage specific, they are structured, because sometimes you have a free form of evaluation, and you have sometimes multi-source feedbacks that measure the 360-degree orientation, and then the checklists are there for different case vignettes, which is one of the very common ways or very common tools. So remember the context-specific learner stage, and then we have the structures such as the OSCEs, which can be, we all know, used in stations for simulated cases, and you can have rubrics, but then again, freeform can be used. Freeform, it can be discussion forms, and I forgot about the rest. I lost my screen. Yes, so multi-source feedback, it's one of those good ways in which you have work environment, team members interacting and actually giving reviews on their co-learners. And this is one good way, in addition to the checklists, as I mentioned. So learners' performance can be assessed in those ways, any of these ways. As I said, informal observation, formal observation, performance cards, portfolios, simulation, journal club. But remember that each strategy has its own strengths and limitations, and we have to consider that when we arrange our list. But then again,
this is fine, Dr. Tara, thank you so much for your presentation, but this is just the cream of the cake. The rest of the cake is something that we're going to go into right now. This is absolute display of what happened on Zoom meetings. We had discussions, we had debates, we had arguments. And there are some dichotomies, very serious dichotomies, which we were bothered by so much. The first one was one side of the argument was, what do you assess when you're assessing the affective domain? What are you assessing? I'm saying, let me say, for instance, I'm going to look at attitude towards life, attitude towards learning, and also attitude towards other persons, other people, the students, the peers, the patients, the teachers, so on and so forth. One side of the argument said that you can't assess all that. This is about bioethics, it's about just the affective domain, and we should be looking only at the student's attitude towards learning. If I go to a classroom and students responding well to me, I'm happy with that. So this is one serious debate that we had, 4 of us. Myself, Dr. Praveen Arora is unfortunately not here, but Dr. Suzanne, Dr. Tara, myself, we had heated discussions and debate. This was one. I'm sure this is just a window for others to come in and deliberate on this. This is something that we have struggled with. And this is where we are. I'm going to leave it at that. Second dichotomy was formative or summative. Again, the issue is it depends on, you say formative or summative. Formative, summative. Who's for formative, who's for summative?
Why not both? Formative.
Oh, great. Good.
Why not both? Without summative.
Yeah,
what
good,
is the
good.
use of
You
formative?
can have both. You should have both. We should be having both. The point I'm making is when you're looking at assessment, you want to look at, do you want to look at assessment or do you want to look at constructing, formation of the attitude, the molding of attitude, the inculcation aspect, the inculcation of attitude, the inculcation of values.
That is internalization.
True, sir. So am I looking at assessment for sake of assessment for certification, or am I looking at really forming the student, building him up? So the point is we want to have both. For one, you have the formative. For the other one, you have the summative. Though it's a little vague what we want to actually assess in that affective domain. The third dichotomy which we struggled with was yes. If it's assessment, if it's formative assessment, how should you do it? The argument, simple argument that I'm giving is how can you discount, remove, or who am I as a person, what am I as a person from what I do and how I do it. If I'm positive, I'm going to bring in the other 5 traits, psychological traits of openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, OSEA, agreeableness, and negativity as a trait. So if I say I have a person who's not open, I may be conscientious. Again, you can have a spectrum of conscientiousness, extroversion, negativity, trait negativity, and agreeableness. You can label me as a good person or a bad person depending upon these traits. So does it have a bearing on the learning? We had a debate on this. So I leave it to the August gathering. Does it have, should we be looking at these traits? I'm saying, for the sake of argument, I'm perhaps saying that yes, we should look at this. Yes, we should be able to measure these on a psychometric scale, and then we should be able to then do the formation of the attitude. This is something that we see of. And then we build it up. And the next big the concept, the philosophy that I grappled upon was you cannot disengage teaching and assessment as far as affective domain goes. That's my proposal. You cannot. Just like you are having a cup of coffee, and as you're sipping the coffee, you are actually evaluating how is it, what's my experience rate. Is it good? You can't disengage both. You are doing both at the same time. But what I want to present as a group, what we want to present is as we are having a experience, teaching learning experience. Be it debate, be it street play, be it role play, be it any other innovative teaching approach where you want to use ethics. I, as a teacher, as a presenter, have to be able to take feedback of the student's affective domain. How is he responding? How is he receiving? How is he valuing what we are saying? All that has to happen at the same time. You cannot disengage. That's what I'm saying. And therefore, the challenge is what tools can you have to assess either at that time. Have I lost you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Come back to the cake.
Okay, you want what tools? This is the big
3 minutes left, Dr.
This
Srini.
is a big difficult question. So I thought of can I have a PDF? They have done they have done various scales for measuring compassion, measuring gratitude, measuring emotional receptivity, sociableness, ability to read faces, the ability to recognize faces. Okay, can we enlarge the bit? So I'm not going. This is document. It's about 4 pages. I'm not going to go into details of it, but they have looked at it and there is evidence. I'm privileged to actually read this. I mean, this is very interesting. There's real stuff there. People have actually looked at it, though it's a little bit out of our comfort zone. It's a little bit out of our comfort zone, but there are many tools.
What is the tool that they are describing?
There are multiple tools. For instance, there's one compassionate. It's about compassionate attitudes and action skills. There is on Jefferson scale. There is on BES. Plenty of them, but 20-25 tools I found just for measuring compassion. emotional receptivity. Many others. And you spoke about compassion fatigue. Just do all that. Do all that. So what I'm saying is, so the gist of it is that you present, you take a student to a teaching learning experience, and then you actually want to know. You might tell me you are saying about forming the attitudes, inculcating values, but where is the student now? Is the first year, is the third year, fourth year, fifth year? Where is he reached? What is he reached? What is the transformation? Do you have any measure for it? These scales, I think, will give us some kind of focus context as to where we want to take the student, where the students are. I think a lot of work needs to be done before we can actually translate it into what actionable, doable points. So, yeah.
Can you elaborate on the tools? This is the main point of your talk.
Yeah. These are many tools there. They're all looking at various aspects of personality. You can talk about positivity, emotional receptivity, so social skills, self-care. They've gone into religion as well. Buddhists, they talk about compassion to self, compassion to others, negativity towards self, negativity towards others, and they've thought of many tools looking at all these various traits. Which you recommend really? Yeah. No, I'm not in a position to do that. Because each one looks at different parts. There's not one universal where all for everyone. There are tools. There are many tools. If you push me, I can name a few. Just talk. Yeah. That's a problem. Please. There's one Jefferson. There's one Jefferson. There's one Pittsburgh. There's one. Yes. And there's one BES, the first one on the list. But anyway,
time is up, Dr. Srini.
The last slide, just the last slide, please. That picture. Okay. How many of you noticed when you walked up onto the Chennai airport, there was a beautiful sculpture, wooden sculpture of fishermen?
Yeah.
I was struck by it. I was struck by it. I had to stand there and stare at it for a while. What I was struck was they were also immersed in what they were doing. It's a livelihood. It is a very, is it in your PowerPoint? It is there as a photograph. But anyway, I'll describe what it is.
The last slide.
I was in, as I said, I was. And I see that they're all immersed in what they're doing. And I don't see different people there. I don't see 6 or 7 people there. I just see one spirit in unison. And they're all immersed. It's authentic. And they're not doing it because they're going to be assessed. They're not doing it for assessment. They're immersed in it, and it's the livelihood, and they're all embodying one of the principles of I think, which is solidarity and cooperation. So I'm going to turn the paradigm of assessment drives learning. For affective domain, no go for that. It's learning that has to drive assessment. We have to be. If the learning is happening for affective domain for assessment, then there's not real affective domain at all. It's not real good transformation at all. So I'm proposing that learning should drive assessment, and we should think of authentic tools to look at measuring the attitudinal domain of these.
Have you thought about
the attitude is not there? How can attitude should be there?
That's part of the question. That's part of the question. Q&A. So Dr. Derek is looking at me, and therefore I know that I can.
No, thank you. It's just that we have time and we need to respect each.
I think we can applause. Please come here.
No, we'll get them when we're doing the. Since we'll call them and.
Susan has to do the summary. Susan.
Let's see the time.
Yes, Susan. She has to do the summary. That is just one more. Let's go. Let's just finish what we started. Yeah.
Just to bring some clarity to the discussion, Dr. Tara started off listing the tools that could be used for the affective domain. If we remember, she mentioned right from conventional using OSCEs with checklists or rating scales. Then she went on to in line with the Miller's pyramid, what we all know about, knows how, shows how, does. We rose to higher levels, and she mentioned what tools we could use for assessing does. She mentioned 360 degrees assessment, otherwise called multi-source feedback. We mentioned also direct observations. The tools used in OSCEs like the checklist or the rating scales and all were just part of that. So just bringing clarity. Another important point that we kept stressing is that the assessment tool we choose should be aligned to our learning objective first and to the teaching learning method that we used. So we will not lose sight of that fact. In the sense, we're not going to stand here and say, we use just this assessment tool because these are its strengths. In the end, it should be aligned to what teaching learning method we use and the objective which we had in mind when we initiated that session. So that was one of the factors we also like to stress. But just because we've been given the exercise of listing the strengths and the weaknesses, if we take an OSCE, we need simulated patients, we need checklists, and before we need rating scales. Checklist would, first of all, require a lot of cooperation from the faculty involved in preparing the checklist. Even choosing which OSCE stations we would use for the exam would be one of the weaknesses. However, the strengths, all of us know, it's objective, it's structured, and there's no argument with that. Anyone could be trained to conduct the session. One of the weaknesses of OSCEs would be the fact that simulated patients, if we're using, training them would be a big task on its own. So those were a few of the strengths and weaknesses of OSCEs that we thought of. Checklists or rating scales. Rating scales, yes, are easier, but only in the hands of experts would rating scales be as or equivalent to what information we could get from using the checklist. Another assessment tool for the affective domain, which we were more in favor of, was the 360-degree evaluation, what we call as multi-source feedback. Because all said and done, that evaluates or that assesses the highest level of Miller's pyramid, the actual does level. So since we were talking about internalization of affective domain, we all agree that affective domain is difficult to assess when compared to the cognitive or the psychomotor. And it's even more difficult to assess whether the student has taken in or internalized what all we are teaching. So to that, keeping that in mind, we were of the opinion that maybe a 360-degree assessment would be better, because it would actually measure what the student is really doing authentically, not in like a sort of simulated environment. However, the difficulty would be is getting enough people. The errors or the weakness would be the fact that bias could creep in. Like if we were to get peers to assess their own peers or nurses to assess the doctors, the question of bias or getting unreliable information would also be there. The other tools that we talked about were self-assessment. Self-assessment strength is that all of us can do it, or like Sir was mentioning, if we had a form that would be more structured. But again, the fact that could the results be reliable or not, we were discussing. The fact, the other tools that we talked about were peer assessment and reflection. Reflection, we felt, was underutilized. It needs more, needs to be given more importance, because in the end, that if students, even if they didn't perform well in the assessment per se, if they reflected on their performance, then it would give them a scope for further improvement. So we felt more important should be given to reflection, which could be added to portfolios or something, especially in the affective domain, that would give more weightage. So that was overall our discussion regarding the strengths and weaknesses. However, we're reiterating that whatever tool we use has to be in alignment with the teaching learning methodology we have chosen, and it should be aligned to the objective that we had in mind when we initiated that teaching learning methods. Of course, the other factors we'll also consider are its utility. Utility is a function of the reliability, the validity, the acceptability, the feasibility, and the educational impact also. So that was about.
Can I just
Yes,
ask
ma'am.
you one point about in reflection, how would you like to assess the reflection? Students write in logbook or in CBME also, they have to do reflections for everything, even
Yes,
for
ma'am.
ordinary practical, forget the AdCom module part of it. So how do you assess reflection?
Ma'am's question is, okay, you said reflection, how do you assess reflection? Luckily in India now, reflection has been brought into the mainstream with the 2019 CBME curriculum coming out. We've got the AdCom module and we make our students do reflections on every teaching learning activity in it. The way we have found easy, ma'am, there are many models or many frameworks for reflection. One of it we find easy to use is Rolf et al.'s framework. It's simple, just 3 questions. What happened? So what? And what next? So if we can teach even a first year MBBS student that all you have to do is write down under those 3 headings, after you have witnessed the teaching learning session, we find it easier to assess that. But yes, to answer your question, there are rubrics for reflection. One is freely available in MedEd world itself. When we do studies on anything, we tend to use those rubrics. But for students, it's easier just to give them the simplest Rolf et al.'s framework and ask them to just answer these 3 questions. Of course, we'll be able to judge whether he's just reflected superficially or he's gone deep into it. But what is in our favor is we are sort of forcing him to do a little bit of deeper analysis by saying, so what and now what? Meaning, okay, this happened, you listened to this class, but so what? What did you get out of that? And further, what action you will take in future? Now what? How will you use what you have learned in future?
Have you all assessed any reflections?
No,
just
yeah, not in the routine class, ma'am, but as part of studies, educational research that we do get the reflections and assess using rubrics itself. But every rubric basically.
Which rubric do you use? I want to see which one is commonly being used.
Ma'am, there's a freely available one which I can share with you after it. We got it from MedEd World, and it's specifically from for reflection. I can give it to you at the end of this.
There's another way of grading reflections, but it's tabled by Sanders.
Yes.
It's given from A to F.
There's some nice tables in this AME guide by Sanders on reflection. In the, I think box 8 or something.
Box
that
3.
was box 3. That was one of the things we were discussing. Clearly, the rubrics which can be used for assessing reflection.
I just wanted, we have everyone from across the country. So which rubrics you all are using, that would be nice. Because this is concentrating on assessment. Would you all have any other rubrics other than Sanders and last results, but the assessment should be also. Could you all suggest any when you use?
It's almost a virgin area. Not many people are doing work on assessing
That's
reflection.
right. That is right.
People tend to consider it's very subjective, but there is a method wherein we can sort of get more information out of reflections.
Which information the student is really
reflecting. They have their own rubrics in structures departments even before few years back.
I've read these reflections, but I've never tried to assess them.
Yeah, that is the exact point.
But you are moved by some and then you said this is nothing. That happens at a subjective level, but having rubrics to actually assess it, that's what.
That's what. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think now we should get it.
Yes, now you can have your applause. So you take a group photo.
His job is not yet done. Yes. No, no, we haven't yet finished we'll give you your due applause.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir.
No, I think the clap, that's not the clap, sir. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That is the Dr. Gilwa's clap, or Dr. Girish clap, also known as the cha-cha-cha clap, and also known as the 3T clap. So,
take the mask off. Okay. You will not take away the mask. Not even for the. I'll hold my breath.
and we have Dr. Srini who's going to.
Oh, that is actually the. Maybe we should move that side because all of you are. Oh, yeah.
Hey.
So now we'll do for them. Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Next group.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, can we quickly have, like I said, all those on my right side to stand wherever you feel comfortable. 5 minutes only by the clock. And all those on my left, please stand up and form a group. Someone who has a problem can of course sit in a chair. But I think this business of standing activates the brain more. Am I right? So we have scientific evidence for everything that we do. And we have the senior most neurosurgeon and neurophysician to back us up with evidence. Am I right, sir? So your time starts now. What was good and appreciative about the presentation? Quickly, within 5 minutes, you can make a small note and one person can come and tell us. The ones here on my right, if you all have any suggestions, something could be improved. Maybe there are better tools, better something, whatever. Okay, just 5 minutes. Yeah, so no, you can justify what they What I mean to say is this.
They are actually excluded. Group one is excluded. Group one is excluded. That is. Okay, we'll start with the positive first. And then positive.
You have only one mic?
So then if we do for each group like this, so first is waste time.
Shall we start?
We'll just start with the positives.
No, we are not beginning. No, we are only suggestions.
Yeah, but let them say what is good first.
Please come to the point. Don't discuss extraneous stuff.
Okay, time up. Time up. Who's speaking here for? Just 1 minute.
1 minute.
Just 1 minute.
Yeah. Just a minute. I know it's difficult to
I'm sitting
keep
here,
it
so
for
it's
1 minute.
30 seconds,
Start
30 seconds
now.
over.
Okay, fine. He was always doing during the course also. Okay, fine. Now, the main issue they brought out is that it's quite difficult to assess attitude. Whether it is from the beginning or at the end, it is quite difficult. But then they went through the process, what all can be done, but there was no definitive evidence or to say this is better and this is what is fruitful. So the main message what they conveyed is assessment of attitude is quite difficult and it is laborious process and two people may not concur with the same feelings. That's what I feel about their presentation and evaluation.
Thank you. Suggestions?
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
We are with you in spirit.
That's the truth. Well, I appreciate the team for the excellent exposition. We also agree with the team that it is quite difficult to assess attitude, especially if you take a professionalism, whatever it may be, all the components, is all not that easy. You have to make a multi-source 360-degree assessment, is what is being said. But 360-degree assessment is equally difficult. Now, I specifically or especially appreciate Dr. Susan, who said that all assessment, whatever we take, we should tailor make it to finally, we should align with the learning outcome, whatever it is. So that I think is the best message what Dr. Susan has given. We'll have to do that in our assessment tools, whatever we are trying to formulate. Whichever assessment tools we are going to formulate, it should align with the
Suggestions.
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 This is the suggestion.
No, suggestions for alternative ways.
Now, further said, now this is my aspect from my view. One or two more suggestions are there from my colleagues, which I'll pass the mic on. 30 seconds.
Suggestions.
I think the self-rating tool could be added and the patient satisfaction questionnaire, PSQs, can be added, and the validity and reliability of the thing can be.
I would include peer assessment is one of the most important things because very often we see students entering the medical college with a great attitude of serving the poor, serving the patients, but while they just come out of it, the attitude has entirely changed.
And we have, in professionalism, we find the doctors, nurses, you find the nurses are the people have to communicate very well. And let us see what the assessment tool they use actually. Our registrar, nurse.
We have a standard tool which we have been from our fraternity. It is basically from CRC Balur and few of the major institutions. So it is not relevant to any international. We just record it. And that is what we are following. It's like a reflective. At the end of the year, we make the students, we give them that tool and ask them to write it down and what they, learned all year regarding the dealing with the patient, dealing with the strangers, in the professional
How do you
career.
assess that?
That's what it's a rating scale, ma'am, basically.
You have
It's rating scale.
You have formed.
Yeah, we have forms throughout Tamil Nadu, the same form has been, we are following it.
Any other suggestions?
And I think can I just see, I think this rating scale, I think we have got to get it because it has been formulated in CMC value. They did a lot of research it seems, and they've got that. We will get that too, because we know that as doctors, communication is almost zero. Okay, that is why it has been introduced into the medical curriculum now. So we can copy that from the nurses.
No, there must be copyright for that.
It's a copyright of Tamil Nadu Nursing Council.
I think for us, we have Kalamazoo essential list. Like Kalamazoo essential adaptive list can be used as a.
Yeah, Kalamazoo checklist. That can be used.
Dr. Karthik, any suggestions? Yes. Rating scales.
Matt, for your question, the problem with all these established and published scales is the cross-cultural adaptation. So it is always better that we need to adopt all these instruments that are already available in the literature to our context, adapting to our culture. So that is
what
very,
Tamil
very
Nadu
important.
has done.
Yeah, but in medical schools, we don't have.
So there is a
that type of
scope
things,
for innovation.
right?
That's what you're
Yes.
trying to say. Existing tools are already there for assessment, but it has to be contextualized for our culture. So
Like,
that is it.
like the dream.
Yeah.
The dream was over a period of time, the Dundee Radio Education Environment Measure. Initially, it was started in the dream in the Dundee University, but after that, they have done the research in almost all the countries across the globe. And now it is straight away you can use it because they have modified in such a way that all these aspects are addressed.
Universal.
Yes, it's universal and you can use it.
Good. So
Thank
good. Thank you very much. Thank you. To all.
We'll just finish 1 minute and another 5 seconds. So.
We'll have the arm wrestling contest between Dr. Joseph Philip Raj and Dr. Girish from offline and online. We'll compare the results of the verbal and maybe physical sparring now. No, thank you everyone, and thank you. I fully underline what Dr. Surapaneni said, and in fact, every time we've come across a scale, it's the cultural interpretation that creates a problem. So we have to keep that in mind. And of course, I request each and every one of you to submit whatever you have, whether it's from the Nursing Council or any scale that you feel can be looked upon. Maybe we can take this up as projects and, like Professor Mary Matthew said, put together and then work out our own and try to get it validated. We do have the numbers and process to do it. So we'll move ahead to group 2. Again, just unbiased, because we're all together and we're all family. It took us an hour to do group 1. Okay, whether we realized it or not, it's just a matter of awareness and time. I'm not saying it was done on purpose, but just so that we have an awareness. All right, so if we don't want to stay here too long, even though Dr. Krishna Mohan has promised us, but just to give you a feedback, we've taken 1 hour just for group 1. Just keep that in mind. Group 2, please.
Yes.
Group 2?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, sir, please.
Good morning, everyone. So, on behalf of the group 2, members, Dr. Girish, myself, and Dr. Naveed, and I'm presenting our outcome of our discussions. So, the topic given was assessment tools for psychomotor and bioethics education. So, the psychomotor domain includes physical movement, coordination, and use of motor skill areas. And these are all the 7 levels in the psychomotor domain, starting from P1 to P7. P1 is perception, P2 is mindset, P3 is guided response, P4 is mechanism, P5 is complex overt response. That means that at this level he becomes expert. and P6 is adaptation, and P7 is origination. If you look at all these 7 levels of taxonomy in the psychomotor domain, the perception is the simplest, and it's starting from the simplest to the most complex. The complex one is origination. So now, what are the assessment methods that we can use for all this, assessing these 7 levels of taxonomical levels of psychomotor domain? To assess P1 and P2, we need to often we'll use the narratives. P3 to P7, the best way of assessing is by face-to-face or by the direct observation. And of course, under the face-to-face methodologies, you have many methods. So you have the OSCE, you have the DOPS, direct observational procedures, the checklist evaluation, 360-degree evaluation, patient surveys, simulations, and standard patient insights. So we just wanted to have few examples, the case studies, and then we have also conceptualized how we wanted to assess it. So a 28-year-old male met with a road accident was brought to the emergency department of Tamil. On examination, he presents with the laceration of the right forearm. He meets inclusion criteria for a research study to evaluate the efficacy of the newly developed suture material. His primary language is Tamil, although he speaks some limited English. He cannot read in any language. The research assistant of the trial approaches the patient and requests his signature on an informed consent document to participate in the research protocol. Due to the brevity of the discussion, the research assistant was unaware of the patient's literacy and patient willingly signed the document. Now, so this is related to the Article 6 of the UNESCO Universal Declaration on the Bioethics and Human Rights. That is nothing but the consent. Now, so we have conceptualized 3 learning outcomes. As we all know that assessment drives learning, and also the learning outcomes, depending upon the learning outcomes only, you should choose the assessment method. So the learning outcome one is the learner will be able to demonstrate the information that should be included in when documenting the informed consent process. Learning outcome 2, the learner will be able to demonstrate the procedures to be followed in obtaining the informed consent process under language and literacy barriers. Learning outcome, the learner will be able to describe how then the consenting process is occurred. So what are the assessment methods that we are using to achieve this learning outcome 1? So the learner will be able to demonstrate the information that should be included when documenting the informed consent process. The assessment that we are using is checklist evaluations, which is a direct observation method, or the OSCE. The purpose of the assessment is to examine learners' communication skills and competence regarding informed consent during an observed structured objective structured clinical examination. The checklist was little elaborate. So I have just we are just giving the handout to you so that in that we have developed the checklist. So it consists of, sir. Yeah, it consists of 14 elements. 14 elements, starting from the description of clinical investigation, risks and discomforts, benefits, alternative procedures of treatments, confidentiality, compensation and medical treatment, and contacts, voluntary participation, unforeseeable risks, involuntary termination of the subject's participation, additional costs to the subjects, and consequences of subject station to withdraw, providing significant new findings to the subjects, number of subjects as well. And for each element, we have given the clear-cut description of the task, because the data has to observe whether the learner is able to demonstrate or perform the task as we described here in the checklist. And then based on the description of the task, the rater has to observe whether the assessor is, the learner is able to perform as it is, how it has been described. And then you have a scale, yes or no. If the learner is able to demonstrate it correctly, then you will give you will take yes and they will get 1 mark, or otherwise you get they'll get 0 points. So this is what is the checklist that we wanted to use it, and for the learning outcome 1. And we also wanted to propose what are all the other methods that can be used apart from the checklist evaluation or the OSCE. So we can also use the direct observation of the procedural skills at ward rounds in real world setting or the hospitals, because again it depends upon in what way you wanted to assess the learner. If I wanted to assess him in the not in the real world environment, that is at the DOS level, then I want to check them. I want to assess them in the lab or by using the ASCII. So it depends upon that. So if your objective to assess them is in the simulated environment, you will use the standardized patients on the simulations and then use it on the ASCII. But you wanted to assess them in the higher level, that is DOS, then you have to go and actually check them whether how they're behaving in the, how they're demonstrating all these things in the real world settings, in the hospital settings. So again, it depends, how you are choosing the assessment method, it depends upon your objective, what exactly you wanted to assess them. Then the learning outcome to pertaining to that case, the learner will be able to demonstrate the procedures to be followed in obtaining the informed consent process under language and literacy barriers. That's what is actually the exact problem and the dilemma over there. So the assessment method that is used is, again, checklist evaluations or the ASCII. The purpose of the assessment is to examine learners' competence, to recognize the language and literacy barriers, and to demonstrate the procedures to be followed in obtaining the informed consent process under language and literacy barriers during an ASCII. So this is what is the checklist that we have prepared. It's a simple checklist. Again, in this checklist also we have incorporated elements, and also we have described what is the task that they have to perform in order to achieve this particular element. The element is recognition of language and literacy barriers to the informed consent process. Then the description of the task is the learner should be able to recognize that the patient knows only Tamil, speaks some limited English, and cannot read in any language. If he do that, the learner is able to demonstrate this, then the rater will give 1 point. Otherwise, they will get the 0 point, and then you will accumulate it. Again, what are the other methods used? Again, it depends upon what you wanted to assess and how you wanted to assess. You have other methods also available. One is DOPS at the war rooms in the real world setting, and also it's about 360-degree evaluation, in which rating forms are completed by multiple evaluators, such as peers, patients, and instructors. That is what is the name for the multi-source feedback. The learning outcome 3 is the learner will be able to describe how and when consenting process occurred. That is completely right. Now, the assessment method that is used is a narrative. So we will ask the student to what happened exactly. How did you do this? So we want to give the narrative. And for that, again, we were discussing about that. How will you assess the narrative? How will you evaluate the narrative, whether they have written correctly or not? So for that, we need to prepare the rubric. So here, what we felt was the rubric consists of what are all the important elements that the narrative should contain, depending upon your learning object. So if you can observe all those elements, key elements in the narrative, then you can take that that's the right narrative, right? And this is the case study too. An adolescent girl accompanied by her mother comes to you to discuss the birth control options. During the discussion, the mother continues to express disagreement with her daughter's decision to become sexually active and proceeds to the doctor in order to leave the examination room. Proceeds to the door in order to leave the examination room. So the learning outcome here is the learner will be able to demonstrate the effective doctor-patient communication, applying the 4 qualities of important components of caring and effective communication skills. That is one. One is comfort, second one is acceptance, third one is responsiveness, and fourth, empathy. This is the learning outcome. So we need to assess now. What is the assessment method that we wanted to use is the preferable one is 360-degree evaluation, in which rating forms are completed by multiple evaluators. Purpose of the assessment is to examine the learner's skills and competence in demonstrating all these 4, the effective doctor-patient communication by demonstrating the comfort, acceptance, and responsiveness and empathy. And this is what will be the effective response. So you ask the mother to remain in the room briefly so that you can explain to her and her daughter what will take place during this visit. After obtaining a general medical history from both mother and daughter, the physician requests that the mother allow private time for discussion with her daughter. Later, a member of the office staff escorts the mother back to the examination. The physician encourages open communication between the mother and daughter and answers any further questions. So this will formulate the basis for you to evaluate whether the learner is able to demonstrate all those 4 components or not. And what are the other methods that can be used for this learning outcome? The DOP is in the real world settings or the hospital settings. And
The next part will be taken by Dr. Rich. Thank you.
Now, we have been told that the second component is assessing the psychomotor domain in the bioethics education. That's very, very important. So we have to see what exactly are the skills which we can actually assess. And if you look into here, the Simpsons level of skill learning, which is already, I think those who have done medical education definitely know about it. And these are the various levels: level 1 perception, 2 the set, mental, then guided response, then the mechanism. And for example, if you take CPR, the learner will observe the steps of CPR, the first level. The second, the learner will indicate the mental, physical, and emotional result to perform CPR. Then he performs CPR under supervision. Then for the mechanism, he'll be able to perform it well. And the complex overt response will be, they'll be against in any care setting they can be able to do. And adaptation and origination. So these are the 7 levels of the psychomotor domain. Now, with this in mind, we went on to 2 articles. One is article number 4, beneficence. And the other is article number 17, protection of the environment. We'll just see the psychomotor domain, how it is being assessed. Article 4, beneficence. That is something benefiting the patient. So here is a case scenario, which would be like in it can be given with a simulator in an hospital station. A 50-year-old patient waiting in the blood bank, this is a case scenario being given, of a large multi-specialty hospital, suddenly falls unconscious. As a medical officer in the blood bank, what will you do and perform? See? And learning outcome, the medical officer will be able to perform a CPR independently and instruct the juniors, which is a beneficence to patient, which will be the level 5 assessment. This can be done actually for the CRRIs in their outcome. This will be the dust of Miller pyramid and level 5 of the Simpsons psychomotor domain. Assessment used here, the checklist evaluation and the DOMS. Anyone. Purpose of assessment to examine the medical students' psychomotor skills, competence in performing the CPR. And this is how we have, this is one which has been the DOMS, a rating scale, which is the CMC value. In fact, they had used this in their booklet, it is there. Borderline, competent, excellence, and this has to be explained. What is borderline? What is competent? What is excellence? Now, hello, you're okay. Alert what against a code blue team. Palpate the carotids and see what you can say this one. Then if you go on to starting the CPR 30:2, then what you can say the code blue rise. Then medical officer instructs, then rows and proper documentation. So this will be observed in the particular station, which can take a duration. If it is going to be a simulation, maybe around 7 minutes. Because the first 3 to 5 minutes is what is very, very essential. The efficiency with which they are doing it is very, very important. And this, of course, is the Likert scale, which I think will be vague for this particular. Either should be acceptable, unacceptable. That can be used actually as a checklist evaluation. The second one, which is the last one, Article 17, protecting environment, that is disposal of biomedical waste. That is the one. And here, the identity and identify and perform the disposal of biomedical waste to the corresponding colored bin. This again, what you can say, the bins will be kept, the station will be prepared, OSCE, and you will have certain materials kept. They should directly take it and put it in. Identify, put it into the bin. So, learning outcome, the student should be able to identify the biomedical waste and perform the disposal of it into the corresponding colored bin to protect environmental pollution. That is Article 17. Level 4 of Simpsons skill learning. Assessment use is checklist evaluation, materials, red bin, yellow bin, blue bin, white puncture-proof container, green bin, and BMW, gloves, blood bag, IV line, implant, syringe with needle. All are kept there in the particular station. And we'll have the checklist here. See, gloves into the red bin, yellow bin, blue bin, white, and green line, yes or no. If he puts it correctly, he gets 1 point. If he doesn't put, no. So, and in the blood bag, especially, it has to be autoclave and then put it real. As specific mention has to be made. Okay. For all these descriptions will be given separately to the faculty. And these are the two from the bioethics part of education. That is what we wanted here. Psychomotor domain. Article 4, beneficence. Article 17, protecting the environment. Now, the strength and weakness of the assessment tools, what we have used, 2 minutes of preference. Dr. Krishna Mohan will assess.
I think whatever the assessment methods that we have already mentioned in our presentation, the strengths and weaknesses we have already discussed in the previous session about the 360 and all those things. I think we can yeah, we have already discussed in the previous session. But one thing in my experience that I have observed is when we wanted to prepare the OSCE stations or all those things, I never wanted to take some checklists and then just use it just like that. It's better, it's always better that we write it because we know what exactly is the procedure of that and how we taught them. And same thing, we have to assess them. So it's always better that you write the procedure. You have to divide that into when you wanted to do the checklist, you have to intrinsically divide them into the various steps, how many ever steps that you can, then you can allot the marks and then you prepare the checklist. Of course, we need to do the validation and the reliability and validation process. That's the tedious thing. But if you are able to do that, then you have the best in your hand because you know what is the best and because it's you taught the children, not that somebody else prepared the checklist and you are using it. Thank you.
That was very well said. And all the aspects of when you have broken the whole procedure and you have evaluated, you have given the points that should be assessed, you are reducing inter-rater variability directly. It's very clear as such. That was one very good. Yeah,
very important.
That was very good. Yeah, we have Dr.
I just want to tell you that even our participants online have given comments. And sorry, I just noticed it now on my phone. Suzanne from April. Okay, she's written that, ma'am, Suzanne here, that's there is a reflective ability rubric we've used in research, and she's given the link. So, you know, those online participants online are also contributing to this program and suggesting alternatives, what we are asking each group to do. Oh, okay, wrong, Suzanne. This is Indian Suzanne. Okay, so whatever it is, the purpose of this is to find newer solutions and, you know, what Dr. Krishna Mohan was saying, the experiences that he has, he was just telling us, you write down, you break down everything and then make the checklist. All that comes from experience. And that is what we're trying to bring out here in this quality assurance program, that we want something that is coming from experience and what is, you know, what is innovative and how we can contextualize it to our country and our, you know, culture. Okay, so thank you very much.
Can I just add 1 minute? See the particular scenario which is said, you know, in a blood bank, the medical officer is there and the patient collapses and falls, you know. This, I have been along with an NABH team to a multi-specialty hospital and into the blood bank, the team walked in. And they said, this is all what they said. Here, a patient has come to donate blood, he just zooms. What do you do? To the medical officer, and he just was standing and observing. They started to you know, instead of it, the CPR should have been started, and that is what they expected actually. Immediate, hello, are you okay? Okay, can't be the fact, can look like this. Alert the code blue team, go ahead with CPR. That was what they expected the steps. See? So this is very, very important. That's it.
One more point.
Actually, we didn't, due to the paucity of time, we didn't have much deliberations on the few things. Maybe Dr. Girish, I wanted to, when you have the CPR checklist, when we have prepared it, it's about reflections of our own group. So because it's a high stakes skill, okay, you don't have this competent and all those things. So when we prepare those, it is yes or no. He does it or he didn't do it. That's it. We should not have a varied scale. Right? Because you cannot give a chance, you cannot take a chance, you cannot give a chance to the student, okay, you have done this much, but these many marks you get, because these are all the high stakes skills, right? CPR means it has to be performed in that way only, right? So each and every step is very, very important. So when we prepare those type of checklists, we have to be very careful that to prepare the checklist in such a way that yes or no. You have an element, you have a description, whether they perform or not. That's it. In between, we should not have it. Right?
That's all. That's all.
Just to go on the same point here, when we conduct OSCEs and all, we have what are called, you can have critical stations, which are must-pass stations. You can't have a lesser amount of performance there. And two things. One is, I just want to add a little bit on OSCE. OSCE is a thing which gives us a lot of feedback. It gives feedback to the teachers also, unlike any other thing. So if we, when you cross-tabulate OSCEs, you can know whether student needs to improve or whether the teachers, our areas, what we need to teach also is needs to improve. That is one. A small point I'd like to mention about the 360-degree feedback. One of the things of 360-degree feedback is ideally used when they're actually doing. When you do the Miller's pyramid, it assesses the does. One problem is when we teach medical students, they're never going to do actually. Your residents will do, your postgraduates can do, but it's not exactly your UGs. So if you're thinking of patient survey, satisfaction surveys, or you want to run 360 degrees, you will have to modify it a little bit. And peer assessment is very important, not so much in the psychomotor, but I just thought, I think Dr. Vasudevan sir was talking about the peer assessment. And especially for attitude domain, peer assessment should be utilized a lot. Because when students come in and they can judge themselves and they like to see others, because they can't judge cognition and psychomotor, peer assessment is not so valuable. Whereas here, when we want them to develop moral reasoning, etc., so on, thing. So that is one. And my last point is we are talking about some of the skills which can be utilized here. Psychomotor, when I was exposed to the terminology also, I had to go around and search a bit. Identification of ethical problems is part of psychomotor I came across. Creative thinking is also part, especially when we want them to reason out moral, so many things. Creative thinking. So there are many more areas, risk benefit analysis. So many things can be brought into the psychomotor domain itself. That is what I thought I'd share.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that very comprehensive job and almost sticking to time. Sorry, my bad habits. Okay, can we stand up now, move into your assessment groups? Again, positives and what could be better, any suggestions that you have? Again, remember, we are not evaluating the presenters, we are not evaluating the group. All right, we are evaluating the process and we are evaluating what could be better, what are our suggestions for the topic as a whole, not for the group or not individually on the quality of the presentation or quality of the presenters. Okay, so your time starts now, 5 minutes. Is there online?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes. Come. Strength. Yeah. Yes, please. Please come.
No, we really appreciate the effort with which they have put it to structure into multiple components and relating it to the UNESCO declaration of the each and what exactly we are going to do. That it's each clear-cut step. And the checklist they have prepared is also very good. It enumerates comprehensiveness. The only thing which we wanted to put is we have made a checklist in a very big way, which asking you will not be able to have much time to look into that every component, and every component may not be there. And one of the another area which we note, though we need to say positive, we'd like to give an expression.
One issue which we have quoted was the interconnecting the consultation between a doctor and a patient on a sexual related issue. But the assessment tool which we have shown is a 360 degree. The 360 degrees, multiple people are going to involve in that. But there is an ethical issue comes when it is a doctor comes and interact with a one-to-one interaction, whether we'll be able to interact in a 360 degree assessment tool for that aspect of it. And the second component is on the biomedical waste which we are putting in that. But we are only putting that which tool we are going to put. But what we are more interested is how he is going to take that. If he is going to take the cotton with a blank can, or whether he is following the protocol which is needed for that biomedical, that should be also part of the assessment tool. And psychomotor, here we are not going to literally looking into the technical aspect more, but how he is going to exactly doing that since with the empathy and the compassion also should be part of it.
Sir?
In the checklist tools which you have made, it is only a pure technical part which you have to do and so if there is a way in which that is putting him in a little more comfortable position, or whether that can be also added into that, and there is only a suggestion which we can make when we make as a part of that bioethical way of assessing a psychomotor tool. It is not only we are going to the cognitive part or the exact aspect, but also other affective domain also should be incorporated into the checklist which we are making on that. Otherwise, it was one of the perfect way which we are looked into that things.
Same, I resonate with the.
Can you just unmute and speak, sir? Just check
like
if
the
we can get
structure
your
that
audio
you have
this
given,
side.
so that it could be easily operational. The one dissonance that I had was, Dr. Naveed, you said that.
Just unmute yourself.
Dilemma there. An ethical dilemma there. Is it actually psychomotor? I always thought it would be cognitive.
Hello. Can you hear me now, sir? Just
it's a cognitive skill.
Okay, we'll check. I'll check. Just keep it on.
Okay, that becomes the prerequisite for the further task that the person is going to do. All right. Okay. But in that situation, okay, it becomes a context for the psychomotor skills. Okay. Thank you.
Psychomotor domain always overlaps. Cannot really put a demarcation correctly that this is attitude and this is only the psychomotor.
No, I'm just trying to see.
Wonder something I was trying to use for osteo.
Can you just can you hear me, sir?
Psychomotor skills by giving them a video.
You can hear me? Can you unmute yourself?
Rather than having a simulation.
Yeah, I do hear you. Yeah. Okay, I'm so sorry for all this confusion. So no, I can simply be a silent listener. That's fine.
If you were here, we would have been taking you around.
Yeah.
Initially, you were to do that. We have from Iraq, Tara's come from Iraq.
Yeah, I know.
She has worn her own, their dress, their national dress.
Students who are having their every 10 years.
Alles gut, alles gut.
They show videos. And that is how it is taken.
What stage do you think would it be? Would it be at the basic stages or maybe towards graduation?
Depending upon what you expected that video to be found out. You are the one who is deciding. You can decide what you wanted, at which level of objective and what is the level. Now, I am dealing more with UGs and PGs, but if you are talking about a person who is a consultant and want to make it, which is there in USA, that programs are available, that is at a higher level. For UGs and PGs, we can do it directly according to the learner stage of learning and the what is the learning objective or outcome. but the outcome and the, that will change. Now, if it is for an MD student, I will have to, the criteria which they have given now, that should be clearly mentioned. At what level, how well, and how it should be. So what happens is you use an assessment tool with minimum, like how they try to bring out, I like that handout which you all have made for the case. So that brings out minimum interventor rating. Yeah, so explicit, we had to take the trouble to make the tool.
The sub-task and what does that mean? Or in fact, for the assessment, description of what exactly you want the learner to demonstrate. So that the interact variability is not there.
And it should be validated, so that variability is not here. Like an
Okay.
orchestration.
Can we go to the next one?
One last point,
Yeah.
I think the previous point which we mentioned about the blurring of boundaries between domains. For that specific reason, that's exactly why we now have competency-based education. Competencies are observable abilities integrating multiple domains of learning. So even though here, for the purpose of the workshop, we are dividing it into strictly domains, we are now in the era of competency-based learning, where we are focusing on competencies which all of us know are like, it could include, one competency could include both a cognitive and a skill or an attitude. So we are doing this more as a theoretical basis, but in practice, the boundaries will be learned and we are prepared.
2 minutes, we'll get you to speak. Okay?
Alles good. Everything is fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, I feel that.
I just want to say hello, and it's because Dr. Russell wants me to say some words. I'm really sorry that you have to manage all these extra requests.
We often, for example, the importance of documentation. Whether we know what are the rules that govern POCSO Act. So these are things which people make mistakes. We should be aware of what are the guidelines of even informed consent, why we should take all these things. Unless and until we know these are rules that govern a profession, I think all of us, we lay stress more on our other skills, rather how to do a surgery or theory and all. But the laws also that are very important. Only that can we go on to all these ethical aspects of it.
Would you say that we could put the assessment of knowledge of the law?
The laws that
Awareness of the law.
you needn't be
Would
the
be-
law, you didn't be a lawyer, but you should know the basics.
Yes.
What is PC? Those who are associated with ultrasonography or using ultrasound machines, they should know what is the PCPND Act, what are the provisions in the PCPND Act.
Would you consider that more at the level of the cognitive domain, that the attitudinal and the cognitive? So there it is. So that is easy to incorporate. Right. Thank you. That was a good draw.
I would like to add here
Yes.
something up. And I must congratulate their team that they have done a wonderful job. But at the same time, I would like to suggest that there should be certain other tools which could be added. Like they have elaborated on the checklist a lot and very precisely and elaborated it. But there can be other rating scales also, like rating scales descriptive and graphical, like the daily routine participation, how many participants have, they have used in the classroom, their participation, and then logbooks, anecdotes, and the critical techniques which the incidents were there, which could also be recorded. So these are the various tools which could be used for psychomotor domain. Yes, for the checklist, they have very elaborated, it was wonderful presentation. And I would like these tools also to be added. Thank you so much.
Actually, psychomotor domain is much used in, I would say, in the nursing profession. Because even in, if you take if you want to go to abroad or whatever country, then my question is set up on based on the Bloom's taxonomy and all the three domains: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domain. So they don't look upon my cognitive domain alone. They look upon all the aspects whether I'm passing. Then only you are passed and you're eligible to get a license to work in other countries. Like whether you take it as a Dubai or whatever. Now they all come out with this.
Earlier, only USA had this entrance examination. Now, everybody come out with this, and this logbook and other things, anecdotal report, every teacher has to submit an anecdotal report if they face, for example, a candidate, a student nurse who did some mistake, and she is asked to write an anecdotal report, and she is given to her and asked her to give a feedback on that. This has been routinely followed in our profession since, I think, ages. It has been followed. Maybe it's not brought up to the limelight, but it is being followed, and we have a standard format for all these things, like how to make anecdotal report, how to collect this, and all that. We have standard formats for all these things.
Thank you. We go on to the next group after a quick
No,
round of applause.
Yeah, can I request everyone to come? As you can see on the screen, we have Professor Jahad for Twinkle, all the way from Germany. So we're truly in hybrid mode. You can see the camera here. So kindly position yourself so that everyone is present. We'll get a nice photograph also. So if you can all come, that on the right hand side. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Russell also. You'll see all the familiar faces, of course, missing you. We would have loved that you were here with us. And so, yeah. So some of you can come in front. You can position yourself according to the screen. So we'd like everyone to be visible. Anu ma'am, Gita Lakshmi ma'am, come. The color has to be there, otherwise nobody looks at us. Yes. So there we have Dr. Jahad for Twinkle. I'll come in. Yes. Just take one photograph, please. Take from the screen. Take from the screen.
Super.
Yes, you'll get only those whose photographs are visible will get their certificate. This is attendance.
Exactly.
Not done.
Okay, you got everyone? No, you have to get it.
Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone. I now request Professor Jahad to kindly address our quality assurance workshop. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning, colleagues. I have listened with curiosity and enthusiasm, and I find the content and also the context in which you discuss the topic very exciting. It is always not so easy to follow, at least not for me, to follow an online event and to understand all parts well. And it was also not so easy to really look at the slides because they were very small, but I could manage somehow. But I'm very much looking forward to the material from the workshop. And yeah, for today, I wish you all the best and a lot of fun. I did realize already that you do have a lot of fun, that you enjoy, that you have a group spirit, and that's perfect. So from my side, I wish you all the best. Have a successful and fruitful meeting. And then, as I said before, I'm very much looking for to receive the material so that I can go through it, and then so that I also learn from your experience. Thank you very much for having me for some minutes, and all my best. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you, Gerard. And for all of you, Professor Hodwig has joined us from Germany, but he's the co-chair of one of our coaches from the Department of Education. In fact, he's also going to be part of our team that will be presenting in Lyon, France, for this on assessment of competencies. So he'll be part of this. So thank you very much, Gerard. So he's going to be
You're welcome.
Presentations too. So thank you very much, and we'll hope the next time you'll be probably in January when you come. We should have another program. Okay, it's going to be.
Let's see. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank
So
you.
now I don't any longer disturb you. Just go ahead with your workshop. Yeah.
Thank you.
Danke. Professor Jihad. And next time we hope to see you on this side of the camera and not that side, and just on the screen. In fact, Professor Jihad wanted to be here, but because of the technical difficulties of his travel, he couldn't be there. Otherwise, he had promised to be part of this workshop. So thank you for that. We'll take a lunch break now so that we ensure.
Before that, the group 2 presentation. Shut.
The part 2, very good, very good, hey. Very good, very good, hey.
Very good, very good, hey.
So on that note, we'll take a break for lunch. One is, I know it's been long, even though we just finished with 2 groups, but significant improvement, all of you. We, from more than an hour, we jumped down to 36 minutes. So it was beautifully presented. Thank you all for keeping to time, because we all want to finish on time, not anywhere else. So okay. So we have a buffet laid out for you all. Once again, thanks to Dr. Krishna Mohan and Panimala. So it's 1:15. Okay, 1:45. All right, because it's a buffet, so food is already laid out. I think that's enough of time for you to enjoy the buffet. That's important. And we'll see you all back here. Okay, thank you.
Gerard, bye-bye. Gerard, do you want to join us for lunch? Do you want to join us for lunch?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yeah. So I did listen already to Derek that you do have a buffet, and I'm really sorry that I can't join. But I just had breakfast here in Germany. It's perfectly fine. So maybe it should be fine. So enjoy your lunch. Yes. We will see us. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So all those who are here will be back in half an hour. You all can take your break, please.
Ciao, ciao. Danke.